Assalamu alaikum. In his Friday sermon, the Khalifa of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community spoke about the topic of Salat, or prayers, and recited chapter 29, verse 46 of the Holy Quran, which reads, quote, "Recite what has been revealed to thee of the book, and observe prayer. Surely prayer restrains one from indecency and manifest evil, and remembrance of Allah is the greatest virtue, and Allah knows what you do." End quote. The Khalifa said, "We are fortunate to have accepted and believed in the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, who was a true and ardent devotee of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. However, with this acceptance comes the enormous responsibility to live up to the spiritual status of the Holy Prophet's companions, may Allah be pleased with them all. This demands that we purify ourselves." The Khalifa said Salat is the primary source of purifying the self, as indicated in the opening verse. The verse speaks of reciting and spreading the word of Allah, observing Salat, which is the source of purification. The Khalifa emphasized our responsibility as Ahmadis to pray at the prescribed times. The 5 daily prayers are the foundation from which the spiritual journey begins, and they are the seeds of spiritual growth. Negligence of Salat chokes out this growth as weeds in a garden. We must firmly establish the roots of worship to safeguard from all evil. This is the only way we can fulfill the purpose and the prophecies related to the advent of the promised Messiah, peace be upon him. The promised Messiah, peace be upon him, said that Salat alone is the virtue that dispels satanic weaknesses, and Satan wishes man to stay away from Salat because he knows it would purify man. Fasting during Ramadan comes once a year, and Zakat is an injunction for the well-off. However, Salat is for everyone and should be performed with a belief that Allah, the all-hearing and all-seeing being, can answer within a split second if he so wishes. Just as a soldier would never surrender his best weapon in battle, Salat is the best weapon for a believer, and it should be safeguarded at all costs. The Khalifa then recited chapter 2, verse 239 of the Holy Quran, which reads, quote, "Watch over prayers and the middle prayer, and stand before Allah submissively." End quote. The Khalifa said various commentators have interpreted the term middle prayer differently. This can be applied in different ways to different people in accordance with their circumstances. In principle, it refers to the specific time during a day when satanic distractions divert us from prayers. Once we safeguard our prayers safeguard us. The Khalifa said sometimes 2 prayers are combined. At times this is done for valid reasons, but at others, people simply make it the norm. Allah has fixed a time for each of the 5 daily prayers. The Khalifa read an eloquent passage from the promised Messiah, peace be upon him, regarding the significance of the timings for the 5 prayers. These daily timings correspond to the worldly phases man goes through. The time of Dhuhr, when the sun, after reaching its zenith, begins to decline, is likened to when a man perceives difficulty and in a state of humility seeks God's help. At this time converts to reality, similar to receiving a court summons for cross-examination to prove one's innocence, it is likened to the time of Asr. This is when a person should remember Allah and pray for protection from making mistakes and seeking forgiveness. The scenario then changes to the court passing judgment against the person. This adds to the person's despair. It is likened to the time of Maghrib, when a person reflects over the day and realizes he has done nothing commendable. He then turns to Allah, seeking forgiveness. The scenario then changes and the court passes a guilty verdict, and the punishment begins. This is likened to the time of Isha, when darkness prevails. The believer reflects over all his actions and spends his time in prison and repents. Eventually, as the prisoner is relieved upon release, a believer is pleased to receive the time of Fajr. This is likened to the ease after hardship mentioned in chapter 94, verse 7 of the Holy Quran, and a new day of progress begins. The Khalifa then commented on the unfortunate news that Danish newspapers reprinted a cartoon of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, in response to the arrest of 3 people who allegedly plotted to kill the cartoonist. The Khalifa said this exposes the pettiness of the Danish newspaper administrators. When the authorities had already apprehended the perpetrators, the immaturity of the Danish newspaper administrators sought to offend millions of Muslims by reprinting the offensive cartoons. However, the Khalifa said Allah, the best of judges, is alone sufficient to respond to such odious acts. The Khalifa then concluded with the prayer, O Allah, these people are abusive in presumption of their power. Remedy this, for you are the all-powerful. Assalamu alaikum.